Mr. Dominic Naab, thank you very much for your time. The Ghana Revenue Authority exceeded your revenue target for 2021, 57.3 billion, as against the 57 billion that was projected. So what exactly worked for you? What measures did you put in place to realize this outcome?
We are first of all grateful to God that we actually exceeded our target, and want to first of all see that the leadership, actually played an important role, starting from Ministry of Finance, the top management, of course the board as well. They also showed interest and worked hard, assiduously, towards the achievement of the target, and then the staff in general also worked hard. That notwithstanding, we also put in place some interventions, and those interventions also played critical roles. For example, we realized that we needed to actually give our taxpayers some kind of comfort. So we went what we call online filing, so that they could file their tax returns online without, coming to the Ghana Revenue Authority. Again, we also went on, adopted this online payment, so that our taxpayers could just pay their taxes without having to come to the Ghana Revenue Authority. This actually worked, to help us meet our target. Again, we also had to actually work towards our psyche, our orientation. We held the belief that once taxes are mandatory, therefore we could just use brute force to collect taxes. But we've been told that no. So we actually set up what we call customer experience. And customer experience essentially is just working on staff to appreciate the fact that taxpayers must be accorded courtesies. You get it? And also to make taxpaying less tasking. That actually also helped us, so much.
So these improved tax compliance, the measures that you put in place, improved tax compliance.
Exactly. There's also an important, aspect of it, and that has to do with the introduction of these integrated customs management systems, ICAMS. That system has actually helped so much. If you look at it critically, in time past, customs had challenges meeting their target. But ever since it was introduced in 2020, customs has been able to meet its target. It actually takes away a lot of human intervention, and then also provides some comfort, for importers. They are able to actually start processing their documents early, even before the goods arrive. And again, they are also able to know how much they are paying, and they themselves can pay without even the support of their agents.
There are specific loopholes in the revenue collection system, which, we've had conversations over time, and the Ghana Revenue Authority knows this. So were there specific interventions to seal these loopholes, which also contributed to what you realized last year?
Yeah. Some of them, yes. Some of them actually had to do with trying to improve efficiencies within the Ghana Revenue Authority. Some had to do with trying to also help enhance some kind of comfort among our tax-paying public. I think that we are poised to actually work hard to achieving that target. Yes, it may sound very ambitious, but we think that we have what it takes to be able to work on it. And we're also counting on your support, as well. Last year, for example, government rolled out what we call the tax amnesty. And that had to do with taxpayers disclosing essentially their information about their tax liabilities, so that if they had any interest and penalties, it would actually be forgiven. That actually worked so much, in our favor, because a lot of taxpayers actually responded. Fortunately for us, it has been extended to 30th June 2022 of this year. So we are hoping that much more taxpayers would respond, and on that basis, we should be able to actually make some milestones.
Governments gone by have all raised concerns about the inability to raise enough revenue internally. The Ghana Revenue Authority, what exactly is the problem in identifying the taxable population? We've been talking about expanding the tax net for only God knows how long. So what are the challenges in there? In identifying those who are supposed to pay taxes, who are not paying taxes. Recently, we've heard the finance minister, the president, has been outlining some professionals who are not paying taxes in this country. So what's the problem?
When it comes to tax collection, indeed, it is dogged with a lot of challenges. And we can talk about the informal sector of our economy. We have a lot of traders who are actually in business. But because they are not regulated, essentially we are unable to actually get them to pay, taxes. We have artisans here and there. Some of them actually, because of the nature of their operations, they operate in the financial world, if you like. They don't actually save through the banks and what have you. Yes, they are supposed to pay taxes, but we are unable to actually get them to pay taxes. That was a challenge and continues to be a challenge. Again, we are in the COVID, era, and COVID has been with us for some time now, and I can tell you that last year it was a challenge, and this year it will continue to be a challenge. That notwithstanding, we are going to work towards it. Again, because of COVID, training of staff in Ghana Revenue Authority was actually, disturbed. We think that we need to actually train our staff, to be able to do the tax collection. But COVID made it very, very, impossible. We had to sometimes rely on virtual training, and I can tell you that wasn't too effective. So we believe that if by God's grace this menace is kept, then we would actually ramp up, programs regarding training and be able to actually get our staff, on board. Another important, challenge that also confronted us had to do with our institutional debts. We have a lot of organizations that owe Ghana Revenue Authority and were unable to actually pay us. You get it? Yeah, so that is also, not that they were not willing to pay, they also had their challenges. So these are some of the things that actually worked against tax collection.
But we have a largely informal economy. And so if one of the challenges you're having in identifying the taxable population in this country is because of the expanding informal sector, what measures are you putting in place to address that? Get the people who are operating in the informal sector to pay taxes.
Yeah, I think that if Ghana Revenue Authority actually operates on the ecosystem, and what we have decided doing as an institution is to go cashless. Are you getting it? So if you go to Energy Ghana Revenue Authority premises, you don't see us collecting cash directly. You have to do that through the banks and through Momo. Ghana as a country, has also embraced, cash light or cashless, as it were. So we are hoping and praying, that if we are able to go fully, into the space of cashless or cash light, system, then we would have all these persons who are not actually, known in terms of their incomes, then we can get them, on board. The challenge has always been that they don't keep proper records. That is the challenge. Once you don't keep proper records, then it becomes very difficult, even for them themselves, to even determine whether they are making profit or losses. So these are some of the things. So we think that if we are able to actually fully roll out this cashless system as a country, just as other countries have done, then obviously we are able to be able to trace incomes of persons who actually make money from their businesses, and then we can tax them appropriately.
Well, since you are banking your hopes on a cashless or cash light economy to be able to, for instance, identify the informal sector or players in the informal sector who are not paying taxes, then you must be concerned about the possibility of the E-Levy eroding the gains that we have made as a country in propagating the cash-light economy or the cashless economy if it is introduced or approved by Parliament.
The fact of the matter is that this E-Levy is actually, if you like, is still in this embryonic stage. It's a bill that is being discussed. Parliament has not yet passed it. What we are doing as GRA is just to look at our systems, our operations, how we can get ourselves prepared to actually be able to administer it. Once it hasn't been passed, it will be very difficult for us to actually, talk much about it. Let's wait and see what will happen, because I'm sure Parliament may even, review a whole lot, or even the ministry. Once it hasn't been passed, it is subject to so many things. So let's wait patiently and see how it will pan out. And I believe that the managers of the economy have weighed, they have looked at the various options. That is why they want to roll it out.
But you indicated that you already have the systems and structures in place if the E-Levy is approved by Parliament. You have the systems and structures in place to collect them. So what that means is that, for instance, with this informal sector problem or the challenge, you're already mapping out strategies to identify the informal sector, and then the other professionals that the finance minister and the president have been talking about, lawyers, others who are not paying taxes.
They are. In fact, we have put in place a system to ensure that when it is passed into law, we all administer. Remember, Ghana Revenue Authority has a simple mandate to administer taxes. So once it is passed, then it becomes part of our operations. We have to go ahead and then administer it.
Concerns have been raised that it's because of the inability of the Revenue Authority, Ghana Revenue Authority, to identify these taxable persons or the taxable population efficiently. That's why governments resort to the rather easy way of generating revenue by imposing indirect taxes on fuel, indirect taxes, the E-Levy that's been proposed, because you have not been able to, through policy, identify the taxable population for them to pay taxes. So let's just slap indirect taxes and get everybody to pay, which in turn gets to also increase the burden of those who are already paying taxes.
Yeah, you see, there are many issues that have to do with policy, and those ones are actually handled by the Ministry of Finance. For us in Ghana Revenue Authority, I can assure you, we have nothing to do with policy. Ours is just to administer taxes. So it will be very difficult for me to actually say that because of that, that is why government intends to bring E-Levy. We have nothing to do with that. Ours is just to collect. If you look at the tax environment, we have two types of taxes. We have direct taxes and indirect taxes. Indirect taxes are imposed on goods and services, whereas direct taxes are imposed, on incomes. When it comes to indirect taxes, because of the fact that usually they are imposed on goods and services, all governments across the world are comfortable with indirect taxes. It is not only Ghana. Are you getting it? So, for me, I don't see anything wrong with imposing taxes on goods and services, provided it makes sense, provided, that is the thinking of government. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But again, remember, GRA has a mandate to collect taxes, to administer taxes. That is all that there is to it. Is that okay? When it comes to policy issues, we don't actually meddle in it.
Over time, there's been concerns about the tax exemptions that, as a country that says that we are broke, I mean, we need money. Every CD counts now. And we keep giving tax exemptions amounting to millions of dollars, thousands of CDs to investors, companies coming in, development partners. What does the Ghana Revenue Authority have to say about this?
I believe you are aware that we have the tax exemption bill before Parliament. So government has identified that as an issue. So I believe that government is working on it.
So you're expecting that the tax exemptions bill is currently in Parliament, when it is reviewed and eventually approved, will address these concerns about the amount of money we are losing as a country to tax exemptions?
Oh, for us, I mean, we have nothing to do with exemption. As I said, these are policy issues. So once the ministry has put up a bill before Parliament, it tells you that that is a concern to them. One has to do with the vehicle income tax, owners, some category of vehicle income tax owners. Last year, 2021, they had suspended, taxes from second, third, and fourth quarters. And then this year, they have first and second quarter where they are not supposed to pay taxes. But let me just say that when it comes to the VIT, the first quarter they were supposed to actually pay. So, and then if there are other, obligations to Commissioner General regarding the activities, they are supposed to pay. before they can benefit from it. So it's actually a conditional, suspension, so to speak.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, there's also that school of thought that the political classes actually benefits from these tax exemptions. So there's really not much of the political will to pass this into law. I mean, to address this particular concern of the tax exemptions and how much we're losing as a country.
Yeah, when it comes to VAT, there's also been a change, in the law. Now, what it is that hitherto we had retailers and wholesalers being on a VAT flat rate, scheme. Then manufacturers and service providers, were on a standard, rate. Now, the law is very clear. It says that once your turnover exceeds 200,000, but it doesn't exceed 500,000, if you are a retailer, then you would operate within the 3%. Wholesalers, is that okay? And retailers, let us start with retailers. Retailers whose turnover exceeds 500,000 automatically will charge at the standard rate. Then wholesalers, manufacturers, and service providers are on the standard rate, 12.5. So that is what it is now. So there has been a change here.
So now, clarify this for me. The Ghana Statistical Service, after the census, put out the data that over 90% of revenue collected by you, the Ghana Revenue Authority, internally, is collected from the Greater Accra region. Over 90% of revenue, the Greater Accra region contributes to that. Is this really the case as per the Ghana Revenue Authority's books, that 90% of the revenue you collect in the country comes from the Greater Accra region?
I don't think I can speak to that confidently because I don't have the statistics. But you see, there's one thing that we need to appreciate. We have the Large Taxpayer Office. The Large Taxpayer Office has a collection of taxpayers across the country, seated in Accra here. And taxes that are paid by these companies are paid in Accra here, and they are part of the Greater Accra, revenue collection. So if you don't look at it carefully, you may be tempted to think that Accra actually collects so much. But remember that there are taxpayers, across the other regions that are also paying their taxes here just because they are with the Large Taxpayer, office. So until and unless maybe we sit down and look at it carefully, it will be very difficult for me to comment on that.
So, for instance, the mining companies or oil and gas companies, they are headquartered in Accra, but the operations are in other regions. So the disaggregation of the data would help us all to understand what this really means, correct?
Exactly. That's a fact. There are some in Kumasi, Takoradi, and what have you. They all pay their taxes here just because they belong to the Large Taxpayer, office. So that's that.
You suspended the benchmark values until further notice after the agitations by GUTA, importers and exporters, freight forwarders, and others. So, are you having consultations to reintroduce the decision to reverse those reduced values?
That is a policy issue. Is that okay? Once it's a policy issue has been suspended, that is what it is. You and I would have to wait and see what will happen next.
It will come back.
Exactly.
Or it's gone for good.
Exactly. So let's wait and see.
So I just want to find out if it's gone for good. This benchmark values reduction reversal, is it gone for good or it would come back?
This question can best be addressed by the Minister of Finance. They are policy makers. They can't do that. We don't change our mandate for us. We are supposed to collect taxes. That's all.
All right, Mr. Naab, thank you very much for your time.